All right, well, welcome to the show today, everyone. My guest today is Nate Gell. Feeling stuck in a job he didn't like, and after coming back from a trip to India, Nate and his partner Mel decided they wanted to try and live a digital nomad lifestyle where they could live and work from anywhere. At this point, they went about building a location-independent business, and today Nate runs a website called eSkate Hub, which provides information and links to electric skateboards. They also run a Google AdWords agency which helps small businesses run their paid Google ads. I want to bring Nate on the show to find out how he made the transition to living a digital nomad lifestyle, how he sustains himself while traveling, and also some of the challenges with living this way. So, Nate, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Nice intro. Thanks for that, mate.
I appreciate it. So, I always like to start with a bit of the background story and kind of where you've come from. So, I was curious to know a bit, before you decide to jump into this digital nomad lifestyle, what was your life like? What sort of stuff were you up to before this whole journey?
Um, so yeah, before I was doing all of this, I kind of just, bounced around from job to job. I finished uni, I got a marketing degree, and then went back to uni, and I got an IT certificate. Um, but I found I was just working at H&M as a team leader, and I kind of felt like that was kind of going to be the way for me for a while. But it just didn't fulfill me the way I wanted it to. I wanted to be in web development or software development, marketing, or something like that. So I quit H&M and I got a job for a software testing company called Planet in Australia, and it was good because they offered me a ton of training and the wage was good. Um, but the thing that got me was that because they offered so much training, they lock you in for 18 months before you can do anything. Um, and I got to about 12 months in, I think, and I just hadn't had enough. It was no nothing against the company. The company is amazing, but the work for me was just the most boring thing I've ever experienced. And some
What sort of
days
work was that?
so software testing is we worked in big enterprises like Telstra Wholesale and Coles, where they would develop software to run their processes and that kind of thing, and we would be in charge of making sure that the software works the way it's supposed to. So it's a lot of button clicking and process writing and that kind of thing, and it was just not creative at all. It was just yeah. Um, and like there wasn't that much work on because the way these big businesses work, they're so slow at getting things done that we would
Oh,
sometimes spend, weeks, 2 weeks doing nothing.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so yeah, at the end of 12 months, I just had enough. I was coming home some days almost crying to my girlfriend because I was just so lost and I felt so stuck.
Really?
Um, and that was kind of the defining moment when I was just like, no, I just gotta get out. Whatever it's gonna cost me, I'm just gonna get out and then start fresh somewhere.
Yeah,
So
cool.
yeah, I got out of that and then worked. I got a job as a web developer at an advertising agency,
Mhm.
and that was awesome, man. The job was great, the people were great, um, but it wasn't offering me what I wanted from my life and my lifestyle. So,
What did
you
you
know,
want?
so I wanted a little bit more freedom. I wanted the ability to travel the world and work and have a project for myself that I could be proud of. Um, and like for some people working in an advertising agency as a web developer with their dream job is the best thing in the world. Like, but for me and my partner, we weren't ready for that. We wanted something more.
I get it. And again, it's kind of just for each person has their own individual definition of success, I guess. So it's about that might have been someone else's definition of success, but for you it wasn't.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
so I think it's, well, is it true you suffered a lot from depression and anxiety? Is that something you're willing to talk about
Yeah.
at all? That seems to be. Is
Yeah, it
that
is. It is true, and for sure, mate. If you want to, yeah, we can dive into that if you'd like.
is that something that came about from, I guess, just not being in a role or position that was right for you? You felt like you just weren't aligned, or was there some other reason? Sort of how, I guess maybe if you could just explain how that all came about and what you were suffering from, just to give us a bit of context.
Yeah, sure. So my depression and anxiety kind of started way, way back when I was in high school. I think I was like 16 or 17. Um, and so I don't actually tell many people this. So what happened was I went out with a few friends and we were smoking some weed, and I had a really bad trip, and I lost sense of everything that I'd ever known before, and I started questioning the world and life and all that kind of thing, which is probably normal things that happen when people open up their minds to these psychedelic experiences. But for some reason, my brain wasn't ready for that, and I fell into some kind of pit where I couldn't bring myself out of it. And over time, I could feel my emotions and my thoughts changing, eventually to a stage where, I almost couldn't feel like much at all. And I didn't know, I knew kind of what the cause was, but at the same time, I think I was predisposed to it. That night was just the catalyst. But yeah, it took quite a lot of time to figure it all out and try and get to a stage where, I was happy and, ready to live my life in a way that I wanted to, and I could, you know.
Yeah. How did you overcome that? Because I guess it took a lot of time, and those things often do take a lot of time. But I mean, was it a case of, I guess, a lot of reflection, or did you do some work with someone, or, yeah, maybe if you could just talk through that process of how you were able to get through that period. Because I think it's something that a lot of people do go through, and to varying degrees, and it might be useful for some other people.
Yeah, for sure. So I think everybody has like an awakening experience at some stage in their life. Well, I think most people will, and sometimes it comes and it's a positive experience. People become opened up to their life and they start living consciously. And other times, they become aware and it kind of ruins them if they're not ready for it, which I think happened to me. But then when that does happen, a lot of people either dwell and get caught and get stuck in that depressive state and really struggle to get out of it. And I did that for a long time until eventually I had, I guess, what you could call a second awakening experience where I just somehow decided and was just not ready to live like that. Like, I can't live like that. It was the worst experience that I've ever had, that I just couldn't keep going like that. And so I think that realization and that awareness was the first step. And then after that, I went and sought some help. I saw a psychologist and I opened up to my girlfriend about it, which I had hidden it from for 10 years or so. I talked to my friends about it now as much as possible without getting, too lost. And just, I think it's really important to talk about it, and it's really important to have some support. And through that and all, it's been a couple of years now since I've been working on it, and it's just, I think, support, hard work, and really giving, allowing yourself to be happy, I suppose, and making that conscious decision to say, I don't want to live like this anymore. I want to be different, and going out and making that happen.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, what you said. So opening yourself up, actually acknowledging it and facing that and accepting it, so you can then work through it, giving yourself that permission to be happy. And I think there was something else you wrote on a blog post where you said that you gave yourself permission to live, which I thought was really interesting. So I think that's a good point as well. So how did that whole period define who you are today? Is that when you, because obviously there's probably something you never really stop working on, like mental health in terms of all that kind of stuff. But I mean, has that helped you become, I guess, more aware of yourself or mentally stronger now that you've kind of worked through a lot of those things? How do you kind of reflect back on it now that you're past, I guess, the worst of it?
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's funny to look back on it now because, in one sense, I hardly associate with that person that I was. But at the same time, the experience and the thoughts that I was having at the time really opened up my mind to, um, finding this life, I suppose. When I was depressed, like, I wasn't happy with society. I wasn't happy with the way that my life was going, and so it pushed me to look for another alternative, and eventually found this.
Mm.
Um, so I guess that's how we got into, that was like one of the early steps on how I found this lifestyle.
Mm.
But when you asked about, you know, the resilience of this, it's true. Like, you spend a lot of time in your own mind trying to fight thoughts and emotions, and having to you have to put in extraordinary work in order to change that. Like, it becomes your default. All of that negativity becomes your default, and to change that and make positivity your default requires discipline, resilience, and a sense of hope to know that it is going to be better. Um, and yeah, it's definitely made me who I am today.
Mm. Yeah, well, thank you for opening up and sharing about that. It's probably not a easy thing to talk about, but I think it's an important thing to talk about because there's a lot of people who face challenges, as we said before, around that. So it's good to hear from people who have been through that and learn from their experiences, so they might be able to help them. So thank you again for that.
No, my pleasure. I always want to help people who have, lived with adversity and have struggling, and just to remind them, it's not, this is not where you have to be. You can be elsewhere.
Mm. I love it. It's great advice. So you get this job as this software tester. You hate that. You quit that. You then move into this web development job with the ad agency. Again, it's not really exactly what you want. So you're kind of starting to, I guess, crave some sort of different lifestyle, which is where you mentioned before this whole digital nomad idea came from. So maybe if you could just start, could you just define for the audience what is a digital nomad, and then how did the idea to actually sort of undertake this lifestyle come about for you?
Yeah, so a digital nomad, it's funny that you asked me the definition, because lately, in, like, I suppose, the digital nomad space, that term specifically has been getting a lot of, a bit of a bad rap. People
Mm.
kind of don't seem to be liking it as much anymore, but I think that's for other reasons. But basically, a digital nomad is somebody who, doesn't really have a home, hence a nomad, and they live by working online. So hence the digital side of things. Um, but really, I think a digital nomad is just somebody who can work and travel at the same time, indefinitely and for a long period of time.
Yep, makes sense. And I guess so it was the idea of freedom that really attracted that lifestyle to you, is that fair to say?
Yeah, so definitely. I think the thing about travel is just that hunger and that desire for new experiences and getting out of your comfort zone and um, just going on a journey that is going to be completely unexpected almost every single day. That's kind of what drew me to it.
Yeah, makes total sense. So how did that transition actually happen? Because it's one thing to, I guess, you're working in this job as a web developer. You're in one spot. I'm assuming you're commuting to an office every day, and a lot of people in that similar situation, and they might think, yeah, I'd love to be able to work from anywhere and start something. But how do you actually make that transition from where you were then to where you are now? Can you walk us through a bit of how that actually happened?
Yeah, when I was at the advertising agency, I actually went to my manager and tried to negotiate some kind of remote working contract with her. But I mean, she was supportive of the idea, and she constantly went to management on my behalf to see if we could make it happen. But because the advertising agency was so traditional, they weren't ready to let me, a junior developer, be the guinea pig for that. And I mean, that's totally understandable. You can't just offer this kind of a thing to anybody, which I was at the time. Um, so I understood that, but at the same time, I was like, fine, I'm going to have to go out and do this elsewhere. And they were quite understanding and supportive of that. My manager, when I called her into the room and told her that I'm gonna leave, she's like, yeah, I knew you would eventually. She just saw in me something that a drive that she hadn't seen before.
Yeah.
And so my girlfriend Mal, she had been working for herself for about, I think maybe a year now, running her digital advertising agency called Bread and Butter Marketing. So I quit my job and started working with her doing Google Ads. For anyone that doesn't know what Google Ads are, it's just it's the advertising platform on Google. When you do a search, all those ads come up. We help small to medium-sized businesses get those results. So yeah, I started doing that with her, and that was kind of the beginning of our I guess it's the first step towards being digital nomads. Like, we still had to build the business to a level where we could sustainably travel while work. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was curious. We don't have to spend too much time on it because I don't want you to have to necessarily speak for Mel. But I mean, how did she get to that position? I'm assuming she must have worked in some sort of agency beforehand, and then just took those skills and applied them into her own agency. Is that kind of how Bread and Butter came about?
Yeah, spot on. She worked for a small marketing agency in Melbourne, was dealing with clients and doing all of their marketing for them. So she eventually got to a stage where she was like, you know what, I can probably do this by myself.
Yeah.
So she quit. It was actually after a little bit ironically, we went on a trip to India, and we read a book called The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss. It's famous, everybody knows it. And that was the moment that really opened up the idea for us that it's possible. So literally about a week after getting back from India and finishing that book, Mel quit her job and started her own company. So yeah, that's how she got into it. Yeah.
I love it. And yeah, it's a great book, and it's funny. It's because it's still so relevant today. Not so much like the tactics of necessarily the nitty gritty of what's in there, but as you said, it kind of shows you, opens your eyes to the possibilities of what can be done, and kind of gives you that mindset, which I think is more important than the tactics. So I love that. So what? So I'm talking to you right now. You're in Istanbul. you're traveling around. You're still working, and you've been on quite a few of these trips. So how long has it been now that you're sort of living this lifestyle? And have you actually been traveling basically the whole time since you started doing this? Could you maybe just tell us a bit about your journey from when you decided to take on this new lifestyle to where you are now?
Yeah, so we spent probably about a year at home working on our business, and before we decided to set off. Last year we spent 6 months of the year overseas and 6 months of the year at home, not all in a row, but that was kind of our first real test of whether this is possible.
Mm-hmm.
Our first trip was actually with like a traveling company. I'm not sure if you've heard of. They're called Wyco. Well, they no longer exist, but they're kind of like remote year. How you travel the world with a group of people and work along the way.
Right.
We did that for 3 months, and then afterwards we thought we can do this by ourselves, and so we went to Bali for 2 months, and it was the best time we've ever had. And so when we got back from Bali, we decided that we're going to do this properly, and we planned our trip for Europe, and we left a couple of weeks ago, and now we've got 7 months of the year booked in already, and we're not sure whether it's going to be more or we'll go home after that. We haven't really decided. We haven't gotten to that stage yet. Yeah.
I love it. It's exciting. One thing I was curious about, because this might just be me personally, but I'm a very I thrive and work well in a structured routine. So I do like to be, it's like, all right, this is my bed. I've got like my space where I work. Everything's already there set up. I don't know where like the cafe is. Everything's kind of like a routine and allows me to kind of get a more deep work and more focused work done. So I'm curious, how's that been for you guys? Actually, just constantly being in new places, having to even just like basic things like where's the shops to buy food. You've got to figure out all this stuff, because I can imagine that would be quite distracting, and it would be hard to actually get a lot of work done in constantly being in these new environments. So has that been a challenge for you, or are you okay with all that kind of uncertainty?
Yeah, it is. It's definitely a challenge, and like the digital nomad lifestyle, as great as it looks from the outside, like it's not for the lazy. It takes a lot of planning and discipline and motivation to make it work. But Mel's great. She has the ability to just sit down anywhere and get her work done, regardless of where she is. So I think that really rubs off on me a bit. But we do, like, I'm the same as you, actually. I much prefer routine, getting up, doing my own little morning things before getting in the zone and working. So it is just about, when you get to a new city, you've got to, set your expectations and set your routine and go with it, So in every city we hire a co-working space so that we have somewhere to go every day for work. So it's like basically going to an office, but it's on our own terms. It's a cool environment, lots of awesome people around. Everyone's focused and driven, and they've got big ideas and dreams. It's just a good environment to be a part of.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's really hard to find your comforts in a new city, like the shops and where to eat and all that kind of thing. And it is hard, but things like TripAdvisor make it easy to find places to eat. We actually just we prefer to just go down the street, look for a little restaurant that looks inviting, and eat there. We try not to think about it too much because it's it takes up your willpower. It
Yeah.
takes up your attention. It's not worth it. Just go get some food, and and on weekends we relax. It's just like, and we do our sightseeing and do all the touristy stuff on the weekends.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes total sense. I think it's almost like you said before, it does take planning and discipline, and you have to almost treat it like it isn't a holiday. It's completely different. You got to actually treat it as, all right, Monday to Friday we're going to the co-working space. We're going to work. Saturday and Sunday we'll go and see all the sites and actually like planning, having the discipline to follow through with that. So I totally get that. What's what are some misconceptions around this lifestyle? Because you see like the laptop lifestyle, Instagram, just like sitting by the pool, checking your sales, watching the dollars roll in, and that's kind of like a pretty big misconception, I think. But are there any like other sort of misconceptions that you've seen that people have about this kind of remote working lifestyle?
Yeah, that's a big one. Everyone looks at people who that travel for a long period of time are super successful and rich and can do whatever they want. But um, I mean, I still work 9 to 5, if not sometimes more. We're really busy building our businesses. Um, so we're not working on the beach. It's not like we're running around, drinking coffee and beers all the time.
Yeah.
But I think another big thing is that people who have this digital nomad lifestyle just travel and don't take their jobs seriously. That's actually one of the things that when I said that the digital nomad is getting a bad rap, is because there's too many digital nomads who have left their jobs to go travel and become quote unquote digital nomads, but they don't actually have like a business, or they're not freelancing. They're just basically just travelers, and they're
Yeah.
calling themselves digital nomads. And there's a small subset of people who they're hating on the digital nomad lifestyle.
Yeah.
But a lot of digital nomads are actually serious business people. That's the thing. A lot of them
Abs-
are entrepreneurs and business people.
Absolutely. I have no doubt. Is it? I'm curious. Is the lifestyle what you expected it would be? Like, is it sort of has it played out kind of how you thought it would in terms of the challenges or the benefits? Has there been any like major surprises for you, or has it kind of been what you expected?
Um, I think we, as humans, we kind of romanticize our big dreams and our big ideas that don't currently exist yet. And so when you're at home and you're in a job and you imagine what the digital nomad lifestyle would be, traveling in an exotic country, working whenever you want to, that's how I imagined it to be. And I don't want to sound ungrateful, because I'm totally grateful for where I am, but it's not really like that. It's kind of, like I am back home, but I'm, working normally, but I'm in a different country. I think that's kind of what shocked me. My idea, my thought, my feelings about the whole thing was, different. But it's just different. It's not that it's bad. Like, man, this is amazing. It is amazing to be here, but it just the idea of it can sometimes be romanticized.
Yeah, I totally get it. And I was curious to ask as well a bit about. So it sounds like bread and butter, the agency, the Google Ads agency, is kind of like the main income source for you to But you've also got this website, Eastskate Hub, which I thought was interesting. So it's basically it looks like a kind of affiliate site for e-skateboards, which is cool. Is that a big part of your income, or is it mostly the agency?
So the agency is the biggest portion of our income. Eastskate Hub is relatively new. It's a new project of mine.
Maybe you could just quickly explain what it is, just for the audience.
Yeah, sure. So Eastskate Hub is a website that reviews and compares electric skateboards. It's kind of like Compare the Market, but for electric skateboards. Mm-hmm. And so what I do is I get in contact with the manufacturers so I can get my hands on the boards, and I do full comprehensive reviews and tests of the products, put all that information up on the website so that people can see how these products work in real life. Sorry. And the way I monetize this is through affiliate links, as you said. Every time my users come to my website, like what they see, use a link and go to the manufacturer to buy the product, the manufacturer will send me a little bit of money. So yeah, it's still, I would still consider it to be in its infancy stages, but ultimately our goal is to work on Eastskate Hub to become our primary source of income, and so that bread and butter can be supplementary. We only have to work on the clients that we want to work on, or work with clients at all. That's our goal.
Yeah, I love it. Diversifying the income source. How do you actually get traffic to it? I'm curious. It looks like you've obviously got some good SEO and YouTube, and I saw you answered some like Quora questions. Have you got any, you're getting a bit tactical here, but I'm just curious to know, like, have you got any strategies to drive traffic to that site?
Yeah, I love talking tactics about digital marketing, actually. So, yeah. The biggest source of traffic is SEO, and it's probably the most reliable source of traffic because you can put in all the hard work now, rank that page, and so long as that content still stays current or useful and there's not too many competitors coming through, then that content's always going to be there and always going to bring you traffic. That's the biggest source. Another big source of my traffic was Instagram. I built my Instagram early on. I started building that following as soon as I started the website, and that has been awesome for me because whenever I have a new piece of content coming out, I can just drop it on my Instagram account and I can quite quickly get 500 to 1,000 visitors, just like that.
Yeah.
And then like the YouTube channel is very, very, very new, but it doesn't really bring me that much traffic to my website. People on YouTube tend to either stay on YouTube, or all the links in the description, majority of them go elsewhere. They don't really. I do have some that go to my website, but people don't seem to click on it. Yeah. SEO. I'm a big fan of SEO.
Where'd you learn those skills for ranking pages? Was that through your work before you started doing this?
No. I self-taught myself SEO by at first reading a ton of articles and following people like Neil Patel, Pat Flynn, those kinds of guys, and then I signed up for an SEO course called Authority Hackers, and that's where I learned the bulk of my SEO knowledge and tactics and strategy. And those guys, Gail and Mark, they're geniuses. That's pretty much how I learned all my SEO stuff.
It's cool. Good to know. Some good names there. Awesome. Well, I'm curious as well. So you've been living this travel lifestyle for a bit now. You're enjoying what you're doing, checking out new cities, traveling a lot for the rest of this year. Do you reckon you'll eventually settle in one spot, or do you reckon you'll be traveling for the rest of your life? Have you thought about that, like long ways into the future?
Yeah, we've definitely thought about it. I think it's a tough one because we're traveling right now, and everyone always says you get over travel. And I mean, I've had that before in South America. When we came home, I was so ready to come home. But you spend a few months at home and you kind of just want to get back out and travel again. So one day, yeah, we're gonna settle down. We wanna have kids. We want to send them to a school, um, and have them grow up with friends in the one place. We don't really want to take our children around the world where they never have, close relationships and friends. They always have to moving around is for a child is generally speaking quite hard. So yeah, we will settle down eventually, but I don't think we'll ever stop traveling. We'll still spend quite a bit of time overseas when we can.
Just have that base and then go on shorter trips from there. Makes sense. What's your advice if someone's in a sort of situation you were at before where you're like stuck in one place and you kind of want to have this flexibility and freedom to work and travel and live this kind of digital nomad lifestyle? Have you got any advice for someone, things they need to consider or questions they should ask themselves before they jump into this kind of journey?
Yeah, I mean that feeling of being stuck comes from the belief that you don't have a choice. And you know, going through my depression and anxiety, one thing that I learned is that you always have a choice. And I understand that for some people it's a lot harder. You might have a mortgage or kids or, a family to support, whatever the reason is. Like sometimes it can be really, really hard. But you can also ask yourself the question is if you decide to quit your job and start your own business and move overseas and travel, and then you fail and it doesn't work, what are you going to do? You can just go back home and get another job. Like it's about, I think, who was it? Tim Ferriss calls it fear setting.
Fear setting, yeah.
Yeah, think about your dreams and what's the worst that could happen, and how bad actually would that be if that was to happen. And I think that's a good way to measure your risk. And generally, it's never as bad as what you think it is. Yeah. I'm not saying be dumb and just drop everything and go. You really do have to think about it.
Yeah.
But it's generally not as bad as you might think.
And I guess as well, I may be wrong, but I feel like also asking yourself, is it actually what you want? Because as we were discussing before, what you see on Instagram or what you might romanticize it to be is not necessarily the reality. So hopefully people listening to this can hear your experience and actually understand the realities of, it's probably, if you've got problems and you're trying to solve them by just becoming a digital nomad, it might not solve all your problems. It might just create a few extra ones for you as well. So kind of
yeah, exactly. You don't want this to be, you don't want to just run away from your problems. It's digital nomad lifestyle is not all fairies and unicorns. It's a lot of hard work. But honestly, in my opinion, for me, it's the best lifestyle I've ever experienced. Yeah.
I love it. Yeah, great advice. Go through that fear setting process, which people can look up, fear setting Tim Ferriss, if they're interested in that. Asking yourself what the worst case scenario is and is it really as bad as you expect? And then also just make sure that you're not just running away from your problems and this is actually something you want to do. I think they're both really good pieces of advice. So thanks for sharing. So coming up on the end of the interview here, Nate, but just a few quick questions to close out. just curious, what's next for you? So you mentioned you're working with Bread and Butter. You're also trying to grow Eastgate Hub, and right now you're in Istanbul. I think you're there for, I'm not sure how long you're there for, but you're kind of going all around Europe over the next 7 months, as you said. So yeah, what's the rest of this year look like for you?
So the rest of the year is a ton of travel through Europe and really focusing on building Eastgate Hub into the next big thing in the Eastgate world. They're my two major projects. Another thing, I think I'm not sure if I mentioned, my partner and I have kind of like a joint Instagram account. We want to move that into sort of like a resource to help people who want to live this digital nomad life. With just interesting links and information, and if they have any questions, they can always ask, to just help people on their journey of being a digital nomad. So we're also going to try and work on that and build a website and a little bit of a hub for people.
That's awesome. What's the handle for that Instagram account?
Oh, the handle for that is Our Life on Purpose.
Awesome. We'll link that up for sure. And is there anything I haven't asked you, or anything you just really want to make sure that you pass on to the audience before we finish up here, Nate?
No, I think this has been a really great conversation to have with you, James. It's been it's been quite opening. It's sometimes you don't take the time to step back and reflect on what you've done to actually get here. So it's been a good exercise for me. Yeah. But what I'd like to say to people is that it's so cliche, but find what you want in this life, and whatever that is, you can go out and make it happen. You just got to. It's your choice. You are the one that has the power to make this life exactly what you want it to be. And yes, it's daunting and it's going to be hard, but trust me, it's way better than being stuck in something that you're not happy with.
Yeah, great advice. We always have a lot more power over our circumstances than we sometimes lead ourselves to believe. I totally believe that. Last question, Nate, is just what's the best way for people to connect with you? You already mentioned your Instagram account. Is that the best way for people to contact you, or is there any other ways that if people want to check out what you're up to?
Yeah, if people want to contact me about anything related to business, they can, best way is probably to email me at njgel7@gmail.com, or you can contact me on Our Life on Purpose. If you're interested in electric skateboards or anything like that, you can email me at nathan@eastgatehub.com. That's also a good place too.
Love it. I'll make sure all those links are linked up in the show notes for this so people can easily contact you. But yeah, Nate, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I really appreciate you being open with your earlier struggles in your life and how you overcame them. I think that'll help a lot of people who can listen to that who might be going through challenges. And then it's been really fascinating just hearing your journey of how you went from something that wasn't really aligned with you and wasn't fulfilling you to building this great lifestyle that you have now, and the challenges of doing that and being open about that as well. So thank you very much for coming on the show today. I really appreciate your time.
No, James, thank you so much for allowing me to share my story. It's I'm really grateful that I've had the opportunity to share my story and show people that it's doable.
I love it. Well, thanks again, and everyone listening, make sure you go check out Nate's stuff. We'll link all that up in the show notes, as I said. He's up to some really cool stuff, and as you can tell from the past 40 minutes, just a really good, genuine dude. So go check him out, go say hi. Thanks for coming on the show, and have a great day, everyone. Hey everyone, thank you so much for listening to this interview with Nate today. I really hope you got value from the episode, and if you did, I've got a quick favour to ask. If you use Apple Podcasts to listen to this, can you please go to the app and subscribe to this podcast, leave me a rating and a review, because that really helps me out and it would mean the world if you did that. And if you don't use Apple Podcast, you can still help me out. You can take a screenshot of you listening to this episode, post it on Instagram stories, tag me at jharris, which is at JHARRISS, and that would really help me out as well and help spread the message of the show. So if you could do any of those things, I'd really appreciate it, and hope you have a great day.